This is a public comment meeting for public comment on hotel motel excise tax. The meeting is called to order, and anyone that would like to make any comment, please come to the podium, give your name, and make your comment. We are now limiting comments to 10 minutes. So, there you go. So anybody that wants to make a comment, please come do so.
Hi there. Sandra Parrish-Ring, 1425 Tolona Mountain Road, LJ. So we attended the work session yesterday, and while we appreciate the Commission's willingness to address the concerns that we have as short-term rental owners about existing reservations through the end of the year, not requiring us to go back and ask more money from the guests or us having to pocket it or ourselves, I am concerned with the proposal that was discussed, specifically that would require to begin collecting that additional tax starting Monday for bookings after August 1st. Now, there is just not sufficient time to get the word out to property owners nor platforms such as Airbnb and VRBO. Now, I spoke today with Mia Brown, who is the public policy manager for Airbnb for the Southeast, and she was surprised to even hear about the proposed tax increase, and she's also very concerned about the implementation plan as well. And I don't know if you've received the letter. She sent letters today to both you as the finance director and you as the chairman. If you don't have it now, you'll probably get it at the end of the meeting. And this is just an excerpt of what that letter contains. She says, "We just want to make sure that whatever tax increase is passed in Gilmer is fair to the many residents of Gilmer who operate STRs in the county. We are advocating for the lowest tax increase possible to support the needs of the county. We believe that increase can be lower than 8%. It is my understanding that the county intends to require STR operators to collect and remit at the intended new tax rate for bookings made on or after May 16th that will take place on or after August 1st. Requiring STR owners and platforms to collect and remit at an increased tax rate when there's been no legal change to the taxation rate is setting up the county and STR operators for confusion. Further, penalizing operators for not paying taxes that are not legally codified is improper and perhaps illegal." So this is me. So at issue is the fact that the tax increase will not even be voted on, I don't think, until next month's meeting. Is that correct? And that I, as an owner, do not feel comfortable starting to collect this increased tax on my guest on Monday. It's not even been codified into law. I would suggest following the state's lead last year when it passed the $5 a night hotel motel fee and made it effective for those bookings on or after July 1st. I believe that a hard, fast date of August 1st or July or October, whenever you can, if you had a hard and fast date, that would be more appropriate. That way it would give enough time for proper notice to the owners who will be collecting it, as well as platforms like VRBO and Airbnb. And again, I do appreciate your willingness to work with us, because that was a huge concern, having to go back to our guests who have already booked. But I do feel like there would be a more fair way to do this with a proper notice to owners such as myself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Lane, 1425 Tolona Mountain Road. We expected more people to show up tonight, but I don't know, it's just the way things go, I guess. My concern borders on what Sandy said, and I echoed that, I think, yesterday. I have a problem with collecting a tax that's not yet a tax. It doesn't become a tax until you pass the ordinance. If you make it a retroactive tax, or you make it a tax based on strictly occupancy, that means I'm on the hook for the amount of money that would have been due if we'd booked later. it takes money out of my pocket. I can't go back and get my guest to cancel, because then you get nothing if the guest cancels. I get nothing, you get nothing. Yeah, but if we do a hard, fast August 1st date, or do a date at least after you have codified your ordinance, I think we're clean. I think it's a clear process. Entities like Airbnb and VRBO will understand it. Now, I had been under the impression you guys were liaisoning with these organizations up until now, but they're hard to find. I mean, they really, you have to know how to network. And Sandy's been dealing with some of these people for years down at the Capitol. And she literally, after she left the meeting yesterday, went home and was working the phones and working the emails till we had to go clean a cabin last night. She had a hair appointment. And we cleaned the cabin at 10 o'clock last night. 8:30 this morning, she was back at it again until she had to go see Mr. Kemp this morning. So she put a lot of work into this. Still hasn't nailed down somebody from VRBO. She's been on the phone with everybody from former Secretary of State in Georgia to the lobbyists, to an assortment of people. It's complicated, and I still think at this point, you as members of the commission don't fully grasp what our business model is, and who we are, and what the cabin companies are, and what we do. And there seemed to be a concern yesterday that a portion of a few months of bookings would not be collecting the additional tax, and it almost felt like some of you on the commission were afraid it was going to set off a fiscal crisis within Gilmer County. And it's like, we've waited 5 months for the legislature to pass their approval for this. You waited another, I think, 2 months for the governor to sign it. I only signed it just last week. I don't think it's too much to ask that we get another couple of months to get all the lines of communication cleared, to get all the entities like Airbnb and VRBO, Expedia, and perhaps others who act as these marketplace innkeeper facilitators. So we all are collecting the same tax at the same time. Sandy and I can start doing the tax next week. I don't feel comfortable with it, but we can do that. VRBO is not going to be able to do that. We can't even find them just yet. Airbnb needs time. Airbnb is offering to meet with, do a teleconference or a phone conference with Sandy and Mr. Paris. I wish this had happened months ago. It really was appropriate months ago. I think we've lost a lot of time. If there's going to be an additional delay, let's not put it on the short-term rental owners, but the chamber and the commission could have brought more of us to the table. So that the discussion we're having right now could have happened in January or February. And you spoke with Airbnb in March or April, and everything was good to go, and we're doing it like everybody else is, and everybody understands what's happening. It's a rough time in the business. There's going to be some shakeout. I would hope that we avoid that. Have you seen some of the headlines this week about diesel fuel? I mean, they're talking about trucks not being able to make deliveries to supermarkets, and the major trucking firms are rerouting their trucks by calling truck stops ahead to make sure they still have fuel, because the automated systems, the online systems can't keep up with who's out. It may be a difficult tourism summer. Then again, it may be a great tourism summer because people can get here and home from Atlanta on a tank of gas. So, but we want to work with you. We want to feel like we're stakeholders too. We don't want to feel like we're stepchildren who are just kind of the mules that have to bring the money to the table, collect it and remit it. Well, other people that kind of dictated the terms, that we're not speaking the same language, we're not speaking the same, we don't have the same understanding. We as STRs, we're not all absentee owners, we're not big rich investors. Most of us are middle class people. Many of us are retirees or about to retire. Many of us are active in our communities, either as part-time residents or full-time residents. Not all STRs are full-time rented to somebody else short-term. Many times it's the 6 months out of the year they're not used as a residence, they get rented out. So I spent the day-to-day helping oversee a paving operation in one of our neighborhoods where our short-term rentals are. I got to track down a contractor, get the bids, and actually oversee the work in Laurel Ridge today on some parts of the road that were largely impassable. We are active people. We contribute beyond our bare minimum. The money that you seem so afraid of losing to the county goes to that kind of activity. It goes to those who have mortgages on their short-term rentals. It goes to our utilities, our propane, our decor, a whole host of things. Taking it away or putting some of that at risk if it has to be turned over to the county because we can't collect it from the guests is going to potentially put some operators in a bind. Not all, but some. And I don't want to see, I want to see a relationship grow from this. We were talking on the way over here. We don't want to see a Gilmer County with competing so much animosity between the groups, the housing people versus the rental people versus the tourism people. It wasn't like that just a couple of years ago. It's like last year something clicked and things seem to segment and get hostile. I think there are things we could do to address this, setting a dialogue between the individual groups. Bring some of us to the table so we have a human face, and we want to see some of the people too who are expressing concerns about what our business model is. I don't think everybody in the short-term rental business has a full grasp on what they need to be doing either. We can all be learning here. So let's set the stage to work together. If you can back this off a couple of months and do it with a clean type of transition that Airbnb and VRBO can understand, I think you'll see a much better outcome, both in the tone of the community, as well as the benefit financially and otherwise to the county. And I thank both of you very much for the time you've given to me in this process all along. I wish others had been here to take part in it. I wish we could maybe do some more formal setting and answer some of these questions back in January and February.
Thank you.
I'm Kimberly Reckless, a concerned Gilmer County resident. Believe it or not, keep Gilmer rural and folks like myself, we're on the side of STRs, which seems like it should be an anomaly there, right? Because that's growth and development, and that's tourism, and that's. But the truth is that, as you know, Gilmer County has had STRs, cabin rentals, for a good number of years. A number of folks in this community have derived their primary income from short-term rentals. So we do very well together, right? Long-term natives, long-term residents, transplants, and short-term rental owners who live here locally, whose, like I said, primary income is from short-term rentals. Unfortunately, with the move towards development the way that it's going in our county, and the popularity of investors in our rentals in general here, and real estate in general, has created a great amount of competition, right? Not just for long-term rental, but for them as well. So what used to be their business, and now they were always the go-to, they're competing with corporations that have bottomless dollars, can buy the bigger houses, offer more amenities. So penalizing these folks who are longtime residents, who are locals, in the same capacity as you are in long-term, or just, get the money off the table investors, seems like it's a step backwards rather than a step forwards. So I would just, anecdotally say that we should look at a way that we can protect the local people who have been in long-term been in short-term rentals long-term, and maybe figure out a way to back them out of it. I certainly agree with Mr. Rink, as he said, that we need more time. There may be more options that we can look at here for our local people who are going to be most significantly impacted because they have a handful of rentals. So that's on the one hand. So on the other hand, the 3% increase in lodging tax represents, as you know, a large amount of money, not just into the county's pocket for projects you all, I'm sure, chomping at the bit to get done, but it also represents a vast amount of money going into the Chamber of Commerce. And as I've made no secret of, the Chamber of Commerce has more money than it knows what to do with. It's created news programs and magazines and open second locations, and it's frankly, based upon the terms of the contract, got to figure out ways to spend this money that it's come up with. And of course, this 3% allows them to be more creative and step outside the former parameters, so they can, I don't know, I guess under the premise of being able to provide services and interests of tourists, also give us some things that we might want locally, which would be fine, except for the other components that come with it. So these people here at the short-term rentals are facing a struggle themselves because this county is being marketed very heavily by the Chamber of Commerce, not just for tourism, but to come here, instead of visiting here, is to come here and buy here. If you go on their website, you will find that there is a link there where they can hook up with any number of realtors in this community to buy that VRBO should they like it. I think that steps outside of the scope of the purpose of the Chamber of Commerce and is going to contribute further to some of those infrastructure problems we're having here and the shortage of housing, not to mention the stress that it puts on our local long-time residents of short-term rentals.
Thank you.
Hey, Kathy Chris, I'm with Sliding Rock Cabins, and I guess the biggest thing I want to say is we're noticing the downturn in the market as far as housing goes, and also short-term rentals. We're actually tracking cancellations right now, just to find out why people are starting to cancel. Last month was the first month we had a lot of cancellations, and a lot of it is due to the economy. So looking at the years 2020 and 2021, they were magnificent years for us. We've been in business 20 years, and they were our top years. We're not going to see that again. It was just not the norm. We're going back to normal now. I think we also need to be competitive with Fannin County. Their tax is 6%. Ours is going to be 8%. And if you had a choice of going to Gilmer or Fannin, the money, it makes a difference with this economy. We don't have to go all the way to 8%. If you want to do 1%, I know you guys want some kind of money, but I'm hoping you'll look at this and maybe not do the total 3%. I'd also like to see it start in August, even July 1st, August 1st, just whenever it becomes the law, that we start collecting whatever the amount is that you're wanting to do. And if any of you want to sit down, and I'm sure Runks, there's others, we could get together and just have a round table. I think we'd definitely be welcoming that because, like I said, the season is changing. It's not going to be 2020 or 2021 anymore. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no one else right away, I have some comments that I need to preface by saying that these are my personal comments. I'm speaking only for myself and not for the board. The first thing, though, that I would like to do is to make one correction, and that is that the chamber is getting more money out of this. Actually, the chamber is going to be getting a little bit less money with this. Currently,
How they do it, how they spend it changes.
I'm sorry?
How they spend it changes.
Right, but that's not what you said. You said they're getting more money.
Well, in the end game, but we can be argue semantics, but I don't want to do that. I just wanted to clarify.
Okay. And I just wanted to clarify that they're actually overall getting a little bit less money, and they're okay with that. Currently at 5%, they get, look at 70% of the money that comes in. At the 8%, they will get 45% of the money that comes in. So their percentage is going to drop. The total amount will go up, but their percentage will drop. And the calculations that they made show that they'll get a slight reduction, not much, but a little bit, but little enough that they're okay with it. There's a couple of concerns that seem to be prevalent with everyone. And it is the idea that the tax isn't actually even official yet, or the tax increase. I am, for myself, fairly sympathetic to that argument, and I will say why is, if we can do this, and I know that we have a bit of a, I don't think contentious is the right word, but disagreement of how much there should be, how it should be done, whether it should be done at all. If there is a way that this can be done where everybody feels that it was done cleanly, properly, that would be my preference. I'd like to come out of this with all parties feeling that, okay, well, maybe I don't agree with the overall decision, but it was done properly. That being the case, for myself, I would be sympathetic to the idea that it hasn't been approved yet, and it's not a tax yet, and perhaps we need to do that first. If that turns out to be the case, I would hope that that would be the last of the concerns, that essentially we would have done it the way we were asked to do it, and everybody can walk away happy, or at least not mad, if not happy. So that's my comments, and I'll open it up for anyone else, post-commissioners that would like to make a comment.
Yeah, we've been talking about this at least, I believe in December we started talking about it. So it's not like we just sprung it all of a sudden. I don't know about the legal issue, whether no need to go to the legal issue, but whether or not you're really collecting it ahead of time, you got the money ahead of time, but the tax is not in effect, that's debatable. I would be agreeable to saying, in my opinion on it, we'll approve this presumably on July 14th. Any reservations made
July 14th or June?
July, when we approved it, or is it June?
It'd be June.
I'm sorry, let me go back, look at the calendar, you're right, it's June. Any reservations made after our June 9 meeting, which would be June 10, would be subject to the tax. And
And
the
I
tax
think
would
that-
go into effect August the 1st.
And I think that's what we've heard. No?
You're saying August, if it's August first when the tax goes into effect, it's bookings on or after August first.
Okay, you know, y'all are gonna have to give a little bit with us here.
Well,
So far, we've come all the way over to your side twice, and it hasn't been enough.
well, it's not so much our side. I think as much as it's going to be Airbnb and the other side.
Well, I understand, but,
There are different kind of animals you're going to have to interface with.
I understand, but consider this. We heard concerns yesterday morning, and we addressed them, okay, will this work to alleviate those concerns? And the answer was yes. We're getting new concerns now, and I don't disagree that they're concerns, okay? So now we're saying, okay, we'll be flexible enough that we'll do it that way, the way that was suggested. So twice, we've listened to concerns and we've agreed to address those completely, and yet, it's still not enough.
So going back to yesterday, I was floored. I thought we were in agreement, then I was floored at the end when you said Monday. It was not only the issue of the notice, but
We
the
may
fact
need to
that-
have you come back to that.
It's not just the issue of enough time and notice, and I granted June 10th is much better than Monday. But the fact that the tax doesn't go into effect until August 1st, like you can't take the tax until August 1st, for us to collect it ahead of time, I don't know that that's,
So what are you gonna do about people who make a reservation on July the 20th?
July 20th.
But their stay is August 5th.
It would still be 5%, but if they call me up on August 1st and want to book August 2nd, it would be 8%, or whatever day. I'm even okay with July 1st, but you didn't think you could implement it for July 1st. Is there like a 60-day, or is there some timeline before you can begin collecting it? Is that why August 1st was thrown out?
I think David said we could do it July 1st or August 1st. He wasn't sure about July 1st, and I kind of jumped on August 1st because that's what I thought I was hearing from y'all.
Well, I'm okay. If it's July 1st, it's fine. I just
You
feel
and I
like,
interrupted you, I'm sorry.
I just feel like it should, if you had a hard and fast date, okay, July 1st, all reservations hereforth will be 8%. I don't think anybody would have a problem with that. But to say, well, June 10th, if it's gonna be August 2nd, you gotta do 8%, it's so much confusion.
Okay, the other alternative is, let's have a start date of July 1.
I would be fine with that. And if you could provide proper notice,
And that's any reservation after June 30th.
I would be fine with that.
If that works for me, I mean.
Is that for both collection and?
That's for new reservations, right?
Any reservation
New
after
reservations.
I
June 30th.
think the concern has arisen today, and it arisen basically out of our conversation with Airbnb. And that
Herman's calling me.
for this to happen, it needs to be
I can't
clear,
answer
just
it,
to
though.
avoid confusion, to make sure it actually does get implemented. She didn't mention last year when the state excise tax was put into effect. Obviously, it was 2 months before entities like the RPO were on board in collecting it.
We're trying real hard to work with y'all.
I know.
And
I think it's important that the ordinance be in effect, and what the ordinance says or how it's written, when it shapes.
okay, well, what Hubert mentioned was then we make it July 1st instead of August 1st. Reservations made after June 30th will be charged at 8%. And presumably any reservations made after June 30th will be for a stay beyond July 1st anyway. So, I mean,
And that's assuming enough time has passed following the passage of the ordinance to implementation of the ordinance. I mean, we don't have our attorney here to address that.
yeah. When Herman gets here, we'll know that.
Can I make one more suggestion too? So when I file my local taxes here, I had to register when I did that ahead of time. So you guys have, you have my email, you have my phone number, you have my mailing address. I would strongly urge everyone who you have contacts for, send them as soon as you're able to. I mean, even if you want tomorrow, say, hey, we've decided that we're gonna pass this on June 9th to start July 1st, you're on notice.
I don't have a problem. Good point.
And then, you know, I've got the contact at Airbnb. I still don't have a contact yet for VRBO, but I'm sure at some point, some way we can get that. But I just think proper notice needs, like Monday was just crazy. There was just no way anybody could do that on Monday.
Well, we've already moved off of Monday.
But I would be
Maybe
happy,
that.
if you did the July 1st and proper notice given, I would not have a problem. And I would walk away not mad. I already said that earlier.
And we've given up ground too, and, you know, if you're taking an 8% tax, we don't really think it's in the best interest. Let's give it a shot. If it works, it works. If it does have impact on Gilmer's tourism and it starts to show a negative effect, I would hope that the commission would revisit the amount at some point.
Right,
You know, with proper documentation. We're not trying to push anything.
right.
And we're not necessarily looking out for us. I do wish others in this industry had shown up to that, because we have a room full of people at the chamber on Tuesday.
And I guess my point is, I understand they didn't show up, but we're basically giving you everything you're asking for, so I don't know if they would have been a whole lot more helpful to you if they had.
I don't
We
know.
just thought there should be other faces to this.
There should be other faces. You need to know who we are. We need to
I
have
can
a
understand
dialogue, you know, because there are others who have a slightly different perspective, maybe a completely different perspective than us. Because we're short-term rentals, we're like cats, you know, you can't hurt us. There's all kinds of different models involved. There's a big short-term rental, there's a little short-term rental. There's the, let's see, lavish, there's the rustic cabin. So, you know, and it's all in the mix here in Gilmer now.
Well, I am going to assume that if, and right now we're just, this is all in the discussion phase, but I'm going to assume that if we make this effective July 1st with reservations after June 30th, that we will be deemed to be doing this right and in an open manner, and that y'all will be, at least y'all, will be not mad.
No, I would not be mad. You and I have spent too much, Mr. Parker, we've spent too much time
Yeah.
on this. We have
We're
worked
getting to know
together.
each other, aren't we?
And I think we've become friends, even though we sometimes disagree. It's a respectful disagreement.
And I know that we still have a disagreement here between us, but I just want to be sure to make the point that we're trying to accommodate y'all, and do this in the way that y'all feel it needs to be done.
And I think you will gain additional insight too if you do have the conversation with Airbnb, which will give you a more industry-wide feel. We use our VRBO as a marketer, but we're not in the full realm of services they offer, so they're a bit different, so they may come at us a little bit different. So you may get some input there that piques your attention. If you think it's going to go against what I think, then maybe let me know, and we can discuss it again.
Karleen, are you hearing all this?
I'm getting about 75% of it.
Okay. What we have been discussing is the idea of, when this is approved in the June meeting, making it effective July 1 rather than August 1, and making it reservations that are made after June 30th would pay the 8% tax. So we're moving it forward a month, but we are moving the reservation part of it back.
Right.
So if you want to mention or give us your thoughts on that.
No, I'm good with that term.
Okay. All right, since we've gone over by about 10 minutes, is there any final comments that anyone would like to make? If not, Hubert, we're in your area now.
I'd like to move that we close the public hearing.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Can we go into the regular meeting, or do we need a break first?